Hey, everybody, it's Lauren Delisa Coleman, and I am back again with another interview during the Austin Asian American Film Festival. And I have with me now Farhan Moradi, who is the filmmaker behind a very cool film called Tehranto. And I'm just happy to be able to connect with you and, hear all about this because you're really blowing up, Farhan. I mean, you have like so much like going on, with this Hulu and, you're Emmy Award like winner, like, okay, all this fabulousness. So we will get into that. But first, let's start, please, with a synopsis of Tehranto.
Yeah, sure. So Tehranto takes place in the city of Toronto, Canada. And it's a movie where vibrant textiles and lively music paints a scene of love and family, where Badi and Sharon, two young Iranian Canadian students from very different upbringings in a divided Iranian community, accidentally fall in love. And I say accidentally because early on in the film, they come from, competing ideologies and they kind of clash and they don't intend to like each other, but it just kind of happens,
Which I think is very cool because it gives, your film helps to bring depth to what we think we know about, Iranians, which is not very much at all, right? So very, very cool. How did you decide to tell this story?
I mean, a big reason for it for me was that most of the Iranian films that I was seeing, either they weren't made by Iranians and they would often not even have Iranians in it. Like you think of like Alfred Molina or Ben Kingsley or Jake Gyllenhaal, often they're playing Iranian roles. Or if they were made by Iranians, they were usually, void of color, and they were pretty depressing and pretty sad, which is not at all the community that I grew up in. The Iranian community I grew up in was, vibrant. There was always food and music and laughs and stuff. And yeah, there's serious drama in our lives and there is hardship, which is why there are so many Iranians that left Iran. Toronto has the biggest diasporic community of Iranians outside of Orange County. Yeah.
So I was going to say, but I thought LA as well, because
so LA is number one.
When I had the opportunity to meet so many people from Iran when I lived there for about a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And my doctor is Iranian, but he says Persian. So I think that's that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, there are many people there from Iran. And I was like, oh, cool. Like I just never knew it.
So LA is number one for the biggest community outside Iran, and then Toronto is number two. And I personally think a lot of people like to use the word Persian because it softens the blow for some people, especially with the hostage crisis. Yeah, I know with the hostage crisis that happened in 79 and in 1980, a lot of Iranians were struggling to get by, especially in North America. They were met with a lot of stigma, so they did what they could to try to, assimilate a little softer.
Right. Because when one says Persia, or at least me, you think fantasy and exotic. When somebody else says Iran, you think nuclear missiles. Like, and it's all because that's just how it's painted. Mm-hmm. If you're outside of the community. So that was your intent with the film. Talk to me a little bit about the making of it. Like how challenging or easy was it to kind of pull together? Well, it's never easy, right? Yeah. But just in terms of like the scope and kind of like the time frame, what was maybe just, I don't know, some of the either lessons that you learned or like standout points where like you look back at it and you're like, oh, that was a killer day or whatever, Yeah.
So for context, a lot of Canadian films are made with public funding. So this movie, I was lucky enough to receive public funding through grant applications and all that. And there's a company here called Telefilm, which is, publicly funded. And we got about just under $100,000 US to make the film. So that's a testament to the work of the crew and the cast with being able to put in so much hard work and effort. And we were able to, make a movie for under $100,000 US, which I think is pretty hard to do. And it took a while because of the pandemic, especially. I think if the pandemic hadn't happened, we would have had the movie done within like a year or two. But the pandemic really threw a wrench in the works. And it took us, I think, probably 4 years to finish it because of that. But yeah, as far as things that I would maybe do different for the next film, because I'm especially in the indie scene right now, the next film that I'm writing right now, I've written it to have smaller cast, much more natural light. So it's mostly outside and it only takes place over the course of a couple of days. Whereas this movie takes place over like 2 years. It has a cast of like 20 named characters. There's all these different locations. And we did it, right? It wasn't easy, but I mean.
But like making it a little bit easier on yourself next time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's funny because I remember interviewing a filmmaker. I can't think of the name right now, but it was her first film ever. She was in the Berlin Film Festival, and it's mostly all underwater. She's like, next time I'm not doing that. But I just like really got committed to the idea, and she was like, it was so hard. So sometimes I guess it's better to start out really complex, and then you can dial it back a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And that's part of the charm with these complicated films is I'm sure the programming team over at Berlin were like, wow, they made this indie film all underwater. Or for us, it's like, wow, this is indie film with all these different locations and all these actors and they made it for under 100,000. Like that's
and they're
our
still alive and safe
with this. Yeah.
So, but you didn't just like fall off a truck, as we say here in the US, and like say, oh, I'm going to make this film. Let's talk a little bit about your background and like I said, some of the accolades that you have managed to rack up for Iran, because it's not a joke, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I was pretty fortunate to meet some of the people that I met because it really paved the way for me going into the industry. I didn't know anybody. So, at film school, we made a bunch of short films. After that, I started working in the film industry as an assistant editor. I worked on a number of TV shows that went on to like you said, they went on to win Emmys in various departments. And being in that environment was really cool because then if you're in an environment where like the heads of all these departments are just like racking up Emmys, right? You could like take any one of these people out for coffee and the wealth of knowledge that some of these people possess is so invaluable because then it leads to learning more and then you can apply that to your own stuff, which is what I did because then I went on to do, my own short films outside of school, Tehranto, and through these connections and conversations and lessons learned, we were able to make the connections necessary to actually make these things. And then once Tehranto was in fine cut, I sent it to some of the producers at this company I was working at called Sinking Ship. And if you're ever bored, you should look up the amount of Emmys that this company has won because they're like. But
like, what a name though! Sinking Ship. Like maybe everybody should name your thing something bad, and then you're gonna get like all this like spotlight on it.
Well, the irony with that name is that they the partners of the company all went to film school together. And someone had heard about their production and was like, oh, well, you don't want to work with them. That production's a sinking ship. So then later when they went on to make their own company, they called it Sinking Ship. And it's I'm sure it's broken records on how many awards it's won because it's absolutely mental. Everything that they make, every kids show that they're making does really well. And they gave me my first opportunity to direct in TV on a show called Odd Squad, which does really well on PBS. And then that led to me getting work on the Hulu show, which is, I think, now on Disney Plus, called Holly Hobby. So and this is all, again, like thanks to people taking opportunities on me, people, showing me the ropes. So it's been a wild journey and hopefully it continues.
Wow. I love hearing all that and how it just kind of, unfolded. I think that says like an awful lot, right? So let's talk now about this film festival. So I guess you were aware of it before?
Yeah. I like to particularly look out for Asian and Asian American film festivals because, Iranians, we're West Asian, and we unfortunately get this label of being called Middle Eastern, which I'm not a fan of because I find that the term Middle East, it assumes England is the middle of the world because when England's the middle of the world, right? Then you go, what's in the East? What's in the middle of the East? That's Iran.
So
but to
true,
me,
right? Those who define and create the maps and have the largest megaphone get to say what's beginning, middle, and end, correct?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I prefer the term West Asian. And often what ends up happening is within the Asian community, right? Whether West Asian, South Asian, East Asian. There's there's these weird divisions that get broken up between us. And to me, if people of color especially are going to succeed in this industry, it has to be through unity. So seeing like the Austin Asian American Film Festival programming films from all across Asia and the Asian diaspora, I think is really commendable, because it does that. It seeks to, unify these groups.
Well, so true. And I just have to say that for me, it's such an education, because as I was prepping and everything, I was like, wait, is this like an error? Because this is not Asian. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess they're doing some kind of, but that's not what we think of as Asia. So I was like, okay, well, we're going to just go with it. But I mean, if it's like considered now like Western Asia, then, well, yeah. But is this something that's like kind of a new way of looking at things, or like a previous way that is now being resurrected? Or what's kind of your take on this? Because yes, most people would say Middle East, even though like it isn't really. Like I think of the UAE as the, real main Middle East. I don't know. It's just too hard to say.
So I think for me, it's almost like resurrecting, because even the term Middle East, apparently where it comes from, apparently, I could be wrong, but there were these British journalists that were trying to write a story about Iran a long time ago, like I think in the 1800s, if I'm not mistaken. And but there was an embargo on journalists writing about Iran because of Iran stopped bringing in British tea. They were bringing in Russian tea. So they're like, okay, no more stories about Iran. So this journalist was trying to write this story about Iran and trying to navigate the embargo. So they came up with the term Middle East, because they're like, all right, we're in England, we're the middle, that's the Middle East. Similar to how East Asia used to be called the Far East, right?
Right.
But within Asia, like countries within Asia recognize each other as being in Asia. You know what I mean? Like in Iran, when they're talking about it, Iran is in Asia.
So then where does Western Asia then stop? At China, and then China would officially become
I think
Eastern
the way
Asia,
that I've
East Asia, like what?
The way I've looked at it is you've got like West Asia would be anywhere from the Mediterranean. So think of like Syria, Lebanon, Jordan,
Turkey.
like Turkey even, right? And then you go all the way over to, let's say, like include Afghanistan. And then once you go east of Afghanistan, to me, that's East Asia. Or if you go like south, you go like Pakistan, India, like those are like South Asia. And then a country like, sorry?
Okay, I get it. So for those who don't know, we have a geography lesson now as well. But so West Asia, South Asia, East Asia, boom.
Yeah. And then you get north, but like the thing with north is really North Asia is mostly just like Russia. But then Russia also occupies Europe because it's how big it is. So then that's like a whole other discussion.
Complex. You could do a film just like on that alone, right? So now you aren't at the festival, correct?
Not yet. I arrived tomorrow. I'm at another film festival right now in Oakville.
It's hard being fabulous, Farhan. I mean, come on. Gotta like get a clone or something. You'll be heading there next. What film festival are you at right now?
I'm at the Oakville Film Festival. I think it's officially called the Oakville Festival of Film and Art. So OFA. They're a smaller festival, a little more like, I'd say like boutique festival in Oakville, Canada, which is actually where I studied film school. So it's a special festival for me because I lived here for so long, and it's cool to kind of come back and have the film featured here. And the nice thing is, because this film plays here tonight, it means that I can come to Austin and be there for the film screening on Sunday. I'm able to hit up
perfect
both.
Timing. So now, have you been to the Austin one yet, or before, I should say?
Not yet. This is actually my first time in Austin.
What are you anticipating most, besides your own film, of course?
Meeting people, I think, is the biggest part for me, especially like meeting filmmakers from communities that I might not have necessarily met. That's the beauty of things like film festivals and film conferences, is you get to travel around and meet people from all over.
Very, very true. And especially when you are in a creative field, that helps so much, because you get different ideas, or someone will say something and it makes you think, oh, I could approach this way, or I need to think about it bigger, or just anything. Coming in contact with those who love a certain space as much as you do is really invaluable. So what do you hope people take away most from the film, Farhan, after they see it?
Hopefully a new perspective on Iranians and who we are and what our culture is about. And I guess also from a further extent, even just a little bit more about the immigrant experience. Because I think that that the film definitely dives into, should you assimilate? What are the benefits of assimilating? Do you not want to do it? What are the downsides of that? And I think that I'm hoping that it'll spark these conversations with people watching the movie about that.
Great. So now how can we keep up with either you, the film, whatever, both? I don't know if you have a site for the film or if you're active across social, because given everything that's happened to date, who knows what's going to happen like next?
Yeah.
Like this time next year, we could be talking about like, so what was it like to win your Oscar, Farhan? Like, so I want to make sure that we, solidify the relationship now.
Yeah, of course. So I've got Instagram. You can find me. It's Farhan Media on Instagram. I think I also have like a Twitter, which is just Farhan Moradi. And then the film has a Instagram handle, Tehranto Film. And we haven't fully launched our marketing campaign. The film is doing a theatrical distribution in Canada in November.
Great.
So I think the plan is to launch the official marketing campaign either in July or August. So around then, you're going to see way more trailers, posters, scene clips, all that stuff. So
great. Well, Farhan, really, congratulations on this and much success. And thank you for taking the time to be able to speak with us. Anything else you want to close before we wrap up?
No, just really excited to be in Austin. And if anyone has recommendations for good food spots or good coffee shops or whatever, feel free to hit me in the DMs.
I think that's a great request. And luckily, excuse me, there's a main strip where like the where by Southwest is like part of it, but there's like a whole main strip there of restaurants and bars and etc. It's never like hard to find them, and so that will be good as well. But I'm sure you will get some DMs.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. You guys, I hope that you have enjoyed watching this, and do look for Farhan's film. And I'm glad that we were able to talk to you. I am Lauren DeLisa Coleman for the Inside series here at Filmio. Thanks so much for watching.